Good afternoon. My name's Pat Flowers. I'm the Senate Democratic leader in the Senate, and thanks for joining us today. We thought it was important to make some comments after we heard from our congressional leaders this afternoon. And we want to particularly focus on the presidential orders and the unacceptable silence of our Montana federal delegation as Montanans, our friends and neighbors, are suffering with uncertainty. I think most of us, many of us know friends, neighbors who are affected by the actions from this president. As Democrats, we also believe in putting Montanans first, which means the government should avoid at all costs making people's lives harder, and that's what's happening. Recent executive orders, including the January 2025 hiring freeze on federal civilian employees, the halt on federal grant disbursements, put Montana families living in fear overnight. Here in Montana, in this building, we've discovered that we all agree on at least one thing, and that is we have an affordability crisis in this state. We're doing what we can at our level to address that, but the federal government is completely undermining that work. And this federal delegation that you heard from is completely out of touch. You didn't hear one mention of the impacts of the work that this administration was doing on Montanans. And like I said, most every one of us knows somebody who's been directly affected and hurt by those actions. Not a word came from our congressional delegations, and it's pretty clear that they are out of touch. There's a good reason why they don't want to have public meetings, town halls, because apparently they're not interested in exactly what's happening on the ground in those impacts. The people of Montana expect responsible governance, not reckless, short-sighted policy decisions that devastate working families. Montana Democrats have been prioritizing freedom, fairness, and affordability, and we've built bipartisan support from our colleagues based on those shared values. We believe this federal delegation could learn a thing or two based on what we're doing for Montanans. Whether you agree or disagree with the size of the federal government, Montanans expect our representatives to look out for their security and livelihood and not threaten it. The president's actions and the ignorance of the Montana federal delegation is a direct threat to Montanans. Their silence and disregard is unacceptable. Now I'd like to invite House Leader Katie Sullivan to offer some comments. Katie.
Hello, everyone. Katie Sullivan, House District 93, Minority Leader of the House Democrats. I thought we were going to get a federal update today that maybe I could come in this room and say, I have your back, federal delegation. Thank you so much for saying something. I support what you're going to do. But I'm not here to say that, unfortunately. I was hoping they'd mention it, but they did not. The hundreds, if not thousands of jobs that have been killed in Montana, the families left in suspense every night, if they'll have a job tomorrow or if they can pay their bills, the stopped water projects, national parks in limbo, the support pulled from our firefighters for this summer, possibly something about the high price of eggs or the rising of gas. But all we heard about were vague notions of things they might work on in the future, support for what they see happening in DC right now. I'm not a federal policymaker. I don't follow Washington day to day, but I see what is happening in this state with President Trump. I hear from Montanans who call me, and I see that they are creating chaos. People in Montana are hurting, and unfortunately, our federal reps said nothing today. Hundreds of forest jobs are killed. Folks like Michael, who will join us in just a second, who has graciously shown up to tell us his story. And this all happens overnight with no warning. People wake up and they don't have a job. Grant funding for our schools is being frozen. Projects across the state are in limbo, one of those being St. Mary's Siphon, which is Highline Water Project. Yellowstone and Glacier are national parks, may not function right this season. Fires could be worse, campgrounds and parks could be a mess. And millions of dollars of construction contracts with local Montana businesses are now in limbo as well. I would call this pulling the rug out from under Montana businesses, workers, and families. And this is not a way to govern, let alone run a business. I personally am a small business owner, and I know business needs stability. Workers need stability, and Montanans deserve stability as well. Instead, we are getting chaos, and I don't think people voted for chaos. They want lower taxes, affordable housing and childcare, higher wages, and safety. We elected our federal representatives to stand up for us in DC, to stand up for the president when he's going against Montana jobs, and I do not see that happening, and I am exceedingly disappointed. It seems like they have forgotten about us, and my question is, why won't they stand up for us? How are they okay with this, and where's the anger? I would like to see some anger from our federal delegation saying that it is not okay when Montanans wake up, hundreds of Montanans wake up, no longer have a job. I'm gonna pass the microphone to my friend Michael over here, who can tell us about his experience. Thanks.
Good afternoon, Montana citizens. My name is Michael Meyerhofer. I have been working for the United States Forest Service out of Choteau for the past 7 years. On February 14th, I was notified that I was being removed from my position as a forestry technician, despite my documented history of superior and fully successful performance evaluations. In 2018, I was trained and certified as a wilderness EMT after completing a course through the University of Montana, in an effort to prepare myself to better serve the public in the backcountry. In 2020, I spent my winter off away from home studying fire behavior and completing large-scale prescribed burns that are effective in managing our forests. This served me to better prepare to support my brothers and sisters working in primary fire roles on the Rocky Mountain front when flames come knocking on our door. What we do is skilled labor. The jobs my coworkers and I have been unlawfully removed from are the foundation of recreation in the Bob Marshall Wilderness. We work dawn to dusk in whatever weather may come, supporting fire crews that protect your forests, ensuring every Montanan has safe, sustainable access to the last best place, to hike and hunt and fish, to show your sons and daughters the beauty in an alpine meadow flush with wildflowers, or the power of a roaring mountain river swollen with melting snow. Outfitting and recreation is an important backbone to our Montana economy. The lack of communication and transparency from your representatives is an abhorrence. Removing public servants like me does not save money. It damages local rural economies and adversely affects the outdoor industry. Who is fighting for us? We elect them to represent us in DC, to fight for us. As some of our representatives remain silent on these actions, and others cheered it on this afternoon, more federal employees were removed from their positions. In a sea of applause, we lost more public servants tasked with protecting your forests. This challenge has derailed my life and my family's plans. We were planning to buy a house. My fiance was hoping to raise our family in the state that she has always called home, and our future is at risk. I hope that our representatives in Congress will stand up for us soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you for your work. And I'm sorry you find yourself in this position. I think it's incredibly ironic as I listen to Senator Sheehy talk about fire season, and I listen to Representative Zinke talk about the condition of our forest. And who are we firing? The people that are actually doing the work on the ground to address those very challenges. And somehow they don't make that connection. And I can guarantee you, if we have a banger fire season, the first people they're going to blame are the Forest Service or the people that aren't cutting enough trees. Never will they look back at themselves and the cuts that they made of the very employees that are supposed to be doing the work on the ground. It's incredible to me. So where are our federal representatives? Senator Daines, Senator Tim Sheehy, Congressman Troy Downing, and Congressman Ryan Zinke? Why have they not acknowledged the damage that's happening because of these policies that are coming from this administration in such a random, chaotic way? They've downplayed the impact of these executive orders, calling them necessary cost-cutting measures. Easy for them to say they're not losing their job. While Montanans are losing their jobs, and we're going to also face the loss of essential services. Montanans deserve leaders who fight for them, not ones who stand by as their communities suffer. Democrats call for bipartisan action at every level to protect our state and our people. Democrats are doing our part at the state level. I hope you'll hear us and learn from us. Thank you. With that, we'll take any questions you may have. Shayla?
I'm curious if you have advice for federal employees in Montana who maybe have lost their job. What are you hearing from your constituents, and where do you send them, and who do you tell them to do?
It's really hard because Senator Flowers and I are position we have. We're state delegation. We're not federal, and so we tell them to call their federal office. I asked the governor's office, how do you see this impacting the budget? What are we going to do about this? Or should we adjust things? And everyone says, it's fine. Don't worry about it. We don't need to do anything. I don't know if any calls are getting through to the federal offices. I don't know if anyone's heard back. There's a lot of people in this room right now that have been impacted by their jobs, not just Michael. We might ask them, is anyone calling them? I don't know the answer. I just know I have the ability to get on a microphone here today, and so I have to say something, and unfortunately, I don't know, I can't make those guys act.
I think one of the things that we heard from Representative Downing is he wants to have the best constituent services office in the state or the country. Great. Call his office, share your stories, and ask him to fix it.
Question for Michael. Can you walk us through sort of like how the layoff was communicated to you, how that went, and then if you tried to reach out? Like I know you tried to talk to Zinke today, but what kind of contact you tried to have with the delegation?
Absolutely. So I was notified by a phone call from my direct supervisor and my district ranger on the forest that called and walked me through what they were told to tell me from my understanding, what it seemed like to me. And then I was sent an email from the Office of Personnel Management that basically said I was being let go based on my performance, even though I have a very well-documented history of successful performance reviews. I'm sorry, does that answer your question about how?
Do you know how many of your colleagues were impacted by this?
My entire crew was laid off. 8 from my district so far. It sounds like there are more people that are facing these cuts. We manage nearly 1,000 miles, if not more, of trail in the Bob Marshall Wilderness with a crew of 10 to 15 people most seasons. That crew now consists of 3 people. Yes.
We heard earlier that there may have been some mistakes made from our federal delegate. Representative Zinke was saying earlier that there maybe have been some mistakes and maybe some people will be reinstated and they just got caught up in this big net. I'm curious if there was an opportunity to be reinstated into your job. Would you be interested in it in this environment? Have you been given any indication that might happen?
That's a great question. Thank you. I've not been given any indication that might happen. It's a very tough moral decision for me to want to go back to a role where I don't feel supported at the highest levels. I have full faith in the Forest Service, from my local offices to my regional offices. They do great work, and right now as it stands, I would love to take my job back. I'm very passionate about public lands. I'm very passionate about creating access. I think public lands impact us all in wonderful and amazing ways, and it's something we really need in today's day and age.
If you could expand a little bit, if you're comfortable, and kind of going off Shaylee's question, what's next for your family?
What's next? So I didn't mention that last spring I took a farrier course at Montana State University to learn how to tack horseshoes back on. Again, in effort to make myself a better public servant so that I wouldn't have to leave the field when my horse threw a shoe. Multiple times last season, that helped me to continue to ride along and cut trees and create access. So right now I'm working on starting my own company, Shoe and Horses. And I'm currently working mornings at Costco, stocking shelves so I can pay the bills. My partner, my fiance, Katie, is a public school teacher who is also facing uncertainty right now. So we're taking it day by day and we're doing what we can.
Where did your fiance teach?
Would you like to, you can ask her if you like. Edgerton Elementary in Kalispell, 5th grade.
Is she commuting to Kalispell?
No, we are currently living in Kalispell for the winter, yes. Yes.
I wanted to see if you could elaborate a little more on what it is that your job position is. And you said you've been with the forest for 7 years. Have you been in this position for 7 years?
I have been with the forest for 7 years. I've been on the same district for 7 years. My job title is forestry technician. The last line in my position description is other duties as assigned. So my primary role is to travel the backcountry for 10 days at a time, clearing trails, maintaining drains, cutting tread, making visitor contacts, burying human waste that we find, ensuring that the public is utilizing the land in the way that it should be done. And we also support wildland fire as needed. We post signs. We are what is referred to as the fire militia. If there's a fire on the district and our crews need backup, the trail crew, the rec crew, anybody that's red carded and has the proper fire quals gets rolled in and brought out to help. That's a really big part of what we do. And yeah, like I said, other duties as assigned, whatever's asked. We want to provide access, and that's what we try to do.
And so you said that you have a team of 8
Yep.
people who all were let go at the same time.
That's
so
correct.
That's for the Rocky Mountain district?
Yes, sir. That'd be the district in Shodo, Montana. This is happening across the nation, across every forest, every state. Everybody I know personally that works on a crew like this has had their entire crew mostly removed. So this isn't going to be a problem that's local just to the Rocky Mountain front or the Bob Marshall Wilderness. This is going to affect every forest in this country.
How feasible if your crew going down and you said 3?
Yes.
Is it possible to work? What does that look like?
You know, they're going to go out and do all that they can. It's what we do. They're going to get out. They're going to spend their normal days in the field. They're going to clear the priority trails. Some of the big attractions on my district are the Chinese Wall. It's a very, very popular place for people to visit, as well as the portions of the Continental Divide Trail that pass through the district. Wilderness in general is important to people, and they love getting out and getting away from the hustle and bustle. So they'll start with what the priorities are, and when the season's done, they'll have accomplished as much as they can.
Is it fair to say that folks recreating incoming years, or what if they want to get off the more beaten paths, they're less likely to be, more trees across the trail?
It will be incredible.
What is a poorly made trail?
There will be impassable trails. There will be 6 foot, 7 foot tall piles of dead trees stopping you from crossing trails. There will be eroded sections of trail that you cannot cross safely. There are going to be unmaintained trailheads with restrooms you won't want to use. There are roads that are going to have boulders in them that we can't get removed. Yes.
Did you watch the delegation speeches today, and what did you make of them if you did?
I did. I was shocked to see the overwhelming support for this large-scale removal of federal employees, and I fear there might be a disconnect in understanding of how the hiring and firing system works in the agency I am a part of and we're a part of. And the agency my colleagues are a part of, a lot of us are on what's called a temp to perm conversion. So we were long-term temporary employees. This year, we all took permanent jobs. We were promoted, and so we were technically probationary employees. So we were all affected by it.
Probationary, but you've worked there for.
Yep, been there 7 years, and before that, I worked 4 or 5 seasons for various conservation corps across the country. I've been doing trail work since 2013, and this is the story of every single one of these people. They started getting paid pennies, sleeping in their car so that they could take care of the land they love, and thought they found a job with some security.
Can you talk a little bit about how you end up here today in front of a bunch of reporters with cameras? Like, was
Great.
there something planned, or-
Thank you. No, this is not something I do normally, if you can't tell by my inability to speak publicly, but we got the news, and on Valentine's Day, expecting, a nice Valentine's dinner, I was let go. And that evening I mourned, and I fought with the emotion of whether I wanted to pursue action or didn't want to pursue action. And I spent a restless night rolling around, and then I woke up energized and, honestly, thought of the Lorax, right? Like, we fight for the trees, because if we don't, who's going to? And so there's just no other option in my mind to pursue bringing awareness to this as much as possible. And, so I don't know, Megan, one of my coworkers sent me a contact with, I believe, a volunteer, and that volunteer put me in touch with somebody here, and I wrote up my experience and offered to share it.
So was that a volunteer at the Democratic Party?
Yes. Yes. Okay.
So through Democratic Party organization?
Yes.
Fair answer.
Yeah, sounds good.
Do you have a political affiliation? Have you been politically active?
I vote, not as much as I should, to be honest. I'll be frank. I vote on the basis of the things that I feel strongly about. I feel strongly about public lands. I wouldn't say I lean specifically one way or the other in any given day or moment. Yeah, I hope that answers it.
If you're comfortable saying, did you vote a straight party ticket in particular?
Yeah, straight blue last year. Yep.
I think you mentioned 1,000 miles in the FOB. Do you know about other forest lands in the state, and can you talk about what might be happening elsewhere?
As far as size, or I can tell you that west of the divide in, Flathead National Forest Country, Spotted Bear Ranger District, Hungry Horse Ranger District, the same thing is happening. I believe the majority of the Spotted Bear Ranger District was let go similarly. And those are really hardcore positions. Those guys go out and they spend the entire season in the backcountry. They give up their summers so that they can create access to public lands. And it's going to be the same way it is on this side. You won't be able to access anything. Yep.
Any closing comments or
I was just curious, I see there are other people here, and I was curious of how many of you guys are let go from federal positions?
Raise your hand.
raise your hand?
So five more. Were you from Forest Service positions or something else? All Forest Service, or were you on Forest Service?
And my understanding is like with 360, is that right, Jonathan? Sorry, or the Jonathan behind you, that 360 Forest Service members have lost their jobs in Montana that I'm aware of.
What is that awareness based on, Katie?
I believe it was an article, was it MTPR or something like that? I can get you the reference. Is that correct? Correct, it was news coverage, yeah. News coverage of it, that's where I'm getting my news because I'm not hearing it from anybody in the building.
Michael, could you spell your name for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Michael, and I know you're asking about my last name, though. It's Maierhofer. Absolutely.
Any other questions?
Do you know, is the federal government subject to the, like, if a factory lays off a bunch of people, they have to issue a warrant notice, right? Is the federal government subject to those requirements, do you know?
I do not know. I know a large part of the layoffs as referenced by Michael, have come from, quote, probationary employees. And as I understand it, anybody who's worked less than 2 years is considered a probationary employee. And I think I'm aware of one that used to work in this building who received one of those letters that was very similar to your letter and said that your performance is not up to par, even though they've had excellent performance reviews, and therefore we no longer need your services. So that's what I know.
Right, 2 years in that role, so they could be working for the same agency.
Correct.
Have a promotion and be on a probationary period and therefore subject to the termination. We did reach out, we did talk to some of the unions. They're so overburdened with providing member support that, but if you all are looking for more numbers around jobs, I will keep my eyes peeled and I can try to get some of that.
Montana-specific numbers would be really helpful.
Okay.
So keep Walter State, there was that one number that went around, I think I did one out that got talked to with that number, and then there's a national was putting out in terms of being able to illustrate the scope.
Yeah, okay, that's good to know.
Michael, one last question. I've heard stories from people that say that because they've been laid off, they're locked out of the systems that would let them access their prior performance evaluations.
Yes, sir.
Is that the case with you?
That's accurate. It's as far as I know, standard Forest Service procedure to lock email accounts and certain tabs on the agency websites once you've been out of a position for a certain amount of time. I can't access my performance evaluations on EOPF currently. I have not reached out to my supervisor yet to see if he'd be able to help, my prior supervisor, excuse me. And but yes, folks are having difficulty obtaining those things. Same thing with the SF50s, a document that shows your experience and your work and when you were hired and laid off for the season and such.
Okay. Any other questions? Katie, you had one more comment?
I have one more part. I'm sorry. I just have to say one more thing. It's not just the people that have been let go yet that are obviously have a problem, but I've talked to some other folks in Helena who work for federal agencies and they are just waiting to be fired. And so there's like this excruciating waiting time of limbo where people wake up and they check their email and they say, am I fired today? I don't know. And it's not fair. I feel really badly for these people, and it would be great to have clarification from the federal delegation. How long do people have to wait to learn if they still have their job? And when are we going to get clarification on this? And so I don't want to forget those people either. They live in our communities as well. That's all I have.
Any other final questions? The last thing I'd add is a long time ago, I graduated from forestry school, and like a lot of these folks like Michael and some of these guys in the back, we all went to work for the Forest Service, and I know the level of commitment that came with every one of us who took those kinds of jobs. And yeah, they were great adventure, but they were also damn hard work. And I really want to just acknowledge that workforce and how important they are to this state and how important they are to each one of us that uses public lands. So thank you all for the work, and I hope you will keep covering this story. This deserves to be covered. This is a tragedy in Montana, and I hope we can get it turned around. Thank you.